CBS's coverage of the NCAA basketball continues with number 9 Syracuse taking on number 24 UConn from Hartford, Connecticut. Look at the top half of the Big East standings, and Syracuse with a chance to grab the number 1 seed in next week's Big East tournament. Hi, everybody. Ian Eagle along with Jim Spadarkel. UConn defending national champions, but right now all they're looking for is a quality win, Jim.
Well, they have to put a good win up, Ian. There's no question about that. And Khaled El-Amin is so important for this team. Keep in mind, the first time these two teams met, Jason Hart, Syracuse's point guard, took him right out of the game.
Look at the starting lineups right now. Senior-oriented group for Syracuse. Brown, Blackwell, Thomas, Bland, and Hart. For UConn, it's Freeman, Dang, Voskuhl, Mooring, and El-Amin. Packed house here at the Hartford Civic Center, and a good officiating crew from the Big East. Tim Higgins, Donnie Gray, and Bob Donato. Syracuse leads the all-time series, 41-24 mark, including an 88-74 victory the last time these two teams met at the Carrier Dome. Jim Boeheim told us he feels like his team is playing better after the 19-0 start. They are now 24-3. Jim Calhoun, his club is 20-8. Normally that would be considered a good year, but you're the defending champions. You're held to a higher standard.
Absolutely, and he knows from that standpoint that he has to get his team, and it's so important down the stretch of a basketball season. Get yourself ready at the end of the season. Hopefully you get a carryover into the Big East tournament, and you get this team on a roll for the NCAA tournament.
Two players that know one another will jump it up. Jake Voskuhl, Etan Thomas, both seniors. Voskuhl playing in his final home game. And Syracuse controls the tap. We're underway from the Civic Center in Hartford.
Such a great matchup right here. El-Amin and Hart. Who wins that one will have a big impact on this particular basketball game.
Here's Damone Brown. Off for Blackwell. Dang comes out to guard Brown. Shot clock at 17.
Straight up man-to-man, and this crowd is into it. They've not been that noisy this year.
Off of Hart's penetration, Bland tried the baseline. Thomas gives it up. Brown with 7 to shoot. Couple of pumps. Off the rim and rebounded by Mooring.
Defensively, a very good start for the Huskies. Everybody, all 5 guys playing that tight man-to-man and pretty active to get things going.
That defense was a trademark last year with Ricky Moore leading the way in the backcourt. Maybe the best defender at his position. Well, but he's graduated.
And that's why there's more pressure on this guy, El-Amin, to make things happen at both ends.
Dumps it inside. Freeman takes the baseline for the reverse lay-in.
And getting guys involved. One thing El-Amin had a problem with against Syracuse earlier in the year. He was shut down offensively individually, and his other guys he couldn't get the ball to.
Here's Brown with a pull-up pop. No good. Bland with an offensive rebound and a reset.
25 offensive rebounds as a team against the Huskies.
Knocked away from Blackwell, and UConn looking to run. El-Amin with a skip pass. Mooring lines it up. He's deadly. Three-pointer.
That's the rhythm they want to get into. Notice the steal, the push. That's the old Husky basketball. Turn it over and get down the floor and make something happen.
And UConn off to the quick start. A minute and a half into the game.
And the pressure extends. A moment ago, the full court 2-2-1. Syracuse has to find themselves a hoop going towards the basket.
Last time these two teams played, Syracuse had a 22-2 run in the first half. Thomas with his first touch. Here's Blackwell, shot clock winding down. Baseline jumper for the senior Ryan Blackwell.
Had a 6-game slump this year where he was a little on the not feeling well side, if you will, but has stepped up, especially last game.
Voskuhl trying to get position. Off the window, no. Freeman taps the ball to himself. Hart nearly took it away, but UConn can reset it.
Don't forget that Thomas is in there defensively, a factor against Voskuhl that trip.
Mooring feeling it. And Bland up high for the board. Here's Hart. He runs the show for this Orangeman team. Blackwell strong to the rim. Count it. That's goaltending. Dang got it on the way down.
On Wednesday, Syracuse played against Notre Dame, and Blackwell really took it upon himself. Here you see the drive, the late Dang effort defensively. A good call from the officials, but Blackwell is so important for this team to really get untracked offensively.
This may come off sounding strange, but it's a compliment. He's not great at any one thing, but he's good at just about everything, Blackwell.
He's a guy I want on my team, right?
Out front, Ajo Dang, sophomore, has struggled a bit in his first year of college basketball.
That is Hart in the corner.
Knocked out of bounds, and UConn will hold on to it. But Hart, he's a pestering presence.
Well, from the weak side, that trip also. Good presence to know that they were going to try to get down to Voskuhl on the blocks on the right side. A little help out from the left, the weak side.
El-Amin will clear it out near the midcourt line. And a whistle as Bob Donato will go over to the scorer's table. Maybe a problem with the clock.
I think it is. You look up, 32 seconds right now.
17-18 on the game clock. We're just underway from Hartford. And UConn with a 5-4 advantage. Jim Calhoun saunters over to get an explanation. Jim Boeheim has spent basically his entire adult life associated with Syracuse University as a player, as an assistant coach, and of course as the head coach for the last 24 years. He's going to the tournament for the 20th time in his career.
And only a 74% plus winning percentage at Syracuse. So I think that number states, obviously he's a winning coach and has done a remarkable job with this program, bringing in good quality players, and they have had such a great season to this point.
They put 17 on the shot clock, 17-18 on the game clock, and we will resume play with UConn in front by 1. A different atmosphere from Storrs, but still the fans get into it here in Hartford.
Well, one of the concerns that they had, and some of the Huskies were even talking about it in the paper, where they would want the people here to be more involved, to get noisier. And you know, in Storrs, they're active here. They're a little more laid back, if you will, but not so far today.
Here's Mooring looking for penetration. The pull-up off the rim. Freeman had a chance at it, but Voskuhl came in between Freeman and the rim and knocked it out of bounds.
From the set from out of bounds, Jim Boeheim switching up to the 2-3 zone, something that he will use constantly. They do a good job of that, but he would really like to stick a man-to-man. That's what they did in the first meeting. They come out man-to-man and really took UConn out of their sets offensively.
That 2-3 zone has been a staple of Boeheim's, but he's mixed in more man-to-man this year than ever before. Inside mid-post, Thomas can't hand on to the pass, out of bounds. Beasts of the Big East. Syracuse ranked number 1 in most of the major categories, and UConn right behind them. But UConn just about the 4th best team of the conference this year, despite being defending national champs.
Yeah, but I think if you look at it, and maybe not so much all of it on paper, I think both of these two teams still consider one another the contender.
Elamine rimming out.
Good shot, though, by Elamine along the baseline. He's not trying to get overly into the one-on-one game, but he's trying to wait things through.
Brown came up with a rebound, now has a kick out. They'll go inside-outside. Etan Thomas the hook, short. Voskuhl the rebound.
And Voskuhl the presence, also forcing him off the floor.
Here's Mooring, spin move. Couldn't get it to go. Freeman on the inside, using that strong frame for the rebound and the bucket.
Freeman has mixed it up at the 4 spot, the power forward spot, the 3, the small forward. He just has to go out and play it. I think that's what Jim Calhoun would really like to see Freeman do. Forget about positioning and just go play this game.
Freeman, a co-captain, along with fellow senior Jake Voskuhl. 7-4, UConn in front.
Good job by Mooring so far, pushing hard away.
Tony Bland fouled in the act by Elamine, and he will shoot a pair. Stops the clock with 15:33 remaining first half.
The reaction pretty good by Elamine, but down the other end, Voskuhl kicking it out. Now this is what the Huskies like to do. They get down the floor, but look at the 2 guys from behind right here. Freeman, the big guy Deng following it up, but Freeman strong enough to get his body in there a factor. Always the Huskies have somebody running down the middle of the floor on their breaks.
Bland has been inconsistent at the free throw line, 65%. He can really give this team a burst offensively, but has not been on his game of late. Maybe lost some confidence.
Yeah, and the shooting percentage is down, and that really hurts him, especially from 3. He's really struggled throughout the year.
First break in the action, we'll step aside. 7-5, UConn in front. Coming up tonight on CBS, it's an all-new episode of Early Edition, when the guy who knows the future meets another clairvoyant. But what happens when she predicts her own future? Don't miss an all-new Early Edition tonight on CBS.
Situation, Syracuse extending a little bit, looking as if they're going to throw a man-to-man defense this trip down the floor. Take a look at the numbers early on. Not much damage done either way. And here's that matchup out at the front. Hart and Elamine. See if he can keep him and force him away. Get the Huskies out of their offensive sets.
Substitution for UConn. Suleiman Wan has checked in for Jake Voskuhl. Elamine matched up with Hart on the outside.
That allows Thomas to run. That substitution also down deep.
Freeman on a spin. Got Thomas in the air, but Etan was able to recover for the rebound.
Thomas always a factor, even though that shot looked as if it was going down. Freeman has to think about him because he's the best shot blocker in Syracuse history.
Here's Blackwell, gives up his dribble. Great look inside for Brown. And
Brown with the movement away from the basketball also. It's one thing to get hung up there and watch a guy handle the basketball, but you have to cut away.
Ajo Dang off penetration to Mooring. Little two-man game. Here's Dang.
Big factor, step away. That's one of the things he can do well. He can hit that 10, 12-foot jumper. That one about 7 feet away, but just a little glide away from the play. Spot up and knock it down. Multi-talented player. Doesn't play as if he's 6'11". Hart doesn't get the roll, but he is going to the free throw line as Suleiman Wan took the hit. Good strong move, and here comes the cut from the other side. Blackwell gets hung up in the air, but Brown keeps moving around the double on the right side.
Committing a foul, number 34, Suleiman Wan, his first personal foul.
At the Hartford Civic Center, Iron Eagle Jim Spanarkel for Syracuse UConn Big East battle. The regular season finale for both of these teams before the Big East tournament next week at Madison Square Garden. Jason Hart missing on his first attempt from the free throw line. UConn with the 9-7 lead. Just over 5 minutes elapsed here in the first half. Damone Brown will go to the bench. And Hart will get another. Preston Shumpert, the sophomore, has checked in. And Tony Robertson for UConn, the freshman out of East Providence, Rhode Island, will see his first action of the day.
And keep an eye out on him, though, too, because he's very quick. This guy can really motor when he gets it going. Robertson just has to be under control with the speed.
El-Amin gets a breather. 1 point UConn lead.
See where the defense has pushed them out, forces the turnover. It doesn't look like much, but it's a nice extended defensive effort there by Syracuse.
Aju Dang was looking for Suleiman Wan. And now Syracuse with a chance to take the lead. In the half-court set, Hart. Shumpert had fallen down. He's back up.
He'll light it up from the outside. That's why they stay on him.
And Shumpert is fouled, taking it to the basket. Suleiman Wan picks up his second. Hartford Civic Center, the site. UConn leading Syracuse 9-8. Jake Voskuhl has come back into the game, replacing Suleiman Wan with 2 personal fouls. And Etan Thomas trying to give Syracuse the lead. Blocked by Day.
And Voskuhl a big presence defensively also.
Robertson on the bounce for Freeman. Here's Voskuhl putting it on the floor. Etan Thomas knocks it away.
Boy, sure did look like Etan Thomas grabbed the left wrist of Voskuhl, no call. Listen to the fans in the background, but watch for the reach. Let's see if he gets him. Oh, good shot right there. Voskuhl should be shooting a pair. No foul called. Out of bounds. Last touch Syracuse. Oh, lazy inbounds. Tony Bland. And a breakaway. Bland spins it home on the finger roll, and the first Syracuse lead of the day, 10-9. And those are the ones that Jim Calhoun cannot live with. Those careless passes. Syracuse does look to bust it up the floor on turnovers, but you just can't hand it to them that easily. Back to the 2-3. On the outside, Freeman. Robertson gets it to the interior. Here's Freeman pulling the trigger for 3. Blackwell trying to tap the ball to himself, and last touch UConn. I think Syracuse will go for that shot with Freeman, but watch this lob pass here. It's stepped in, off to the races they go, and you're really not in any type of position whatsoever. If you're inbounding it from your own basket, you turn it over. Everybody's under the basket, so it's a foot race. Freeman, the only guy who had even a close shot of getting back. El-Amin back in the game for UConn. Mooring takes a seat. Good help by Voskuhl out front. Gives El-Amin a little time to get back to Hart. Hart off a crossover. Blackwell fires it inside for Thomas. The hook rims out. And a loose ball foul. Thomas and Shumpert had come in on Dang. And Etan Thomas will pick it up. The Academic All-Stars recognize 1 player on each team for academic excellence. For today's game, the All-Stars are Etan Thomas from Syracuse and Jake Voskuhl, our Pizza Hut Academic All-Stars. Nice matchup, too. If Voskuhl can keep pushing Thomas out when he catches the ball, he'll have more success. He can't let him catch it down deep and roll to the basket with it. First foul on Thomas. Jumper from Robertson, no. And
Blackwell able to control it off the glass.
So he gets to the middle of the floor, Hart.
Here's Hart zigzagging. Kick out for Bland. You see Kentucky with a victory over Florida. And a steal for Elamine. Freeman, scoop to the hoop, goes through.
I was going to say Elamine may have given that ball up just a touch too soon, but Freeman's ability to avoid the charge and using the springs and the hop to get to the lane and get to the basket.
And UConn goes back in front by 1.
Well, no one's going to be talking about the lack of noise if you're a Husky fan in this building today.
Crowd has been vocal early. Hart cannot convert from three-point range. Thomas, offensive board, and give him 2. Dang with his second goaltend.
Must find a way to keep Thomas off the offensive glass.
Another bucket for Thomas. 12-11. Syracuse with a lead, a timeout.
CBS Sports coverage of the road to the Final Four is sponsored by the rugged Montana from Pontiac, proud sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team. Compaq iPad, the first internet device for business, and by kforce.com. Opportunity has a new address.
Back at the Hartford Civic Center, Syracuse up by 1, but UConn using that transition game.
And as they go the other end, you see the push down the floor right now. Elamine coming down. Freeman will get this basketball. He goes up and slides away from the defender to avoid the charge. So a pretty good presence right there from Freeman. 6'7", 215 or so. Really uses the body well.
And 7 of their 11 points have come off fast breaks. Doug Wren, freshman from Seattle, has checked into the game, making his first appearance since January 27th against Providence. Freeman connects for 2.
Not only have they found the spot against the 2-3, if you can slip behind the first 2 guys out front into the free throw area, A, you'll get a shot. The second part of what you'll get is a quick pass away.
8 points for Kevin Freeman. Here's Shumpert, defended by Wren. Inside, Thomas off balance. And Voskuhl able to clean it up.
Voskuhl is a presence again defensively, just a little bit to get him floating. There's that spot again.
On the entry feed, Voskuhl is fouled.
So if you get a situation where you're going to come in across the lane, this whole area right in here is going to be wide open behind the first 2 men. A, you'll get a shot, but it also gives you the ability to turn and look at the basket, number 1, put it on the floor, number 2, or find somebody who's open.
First foul assessed to Ryan Blackwell as Alan Griffin checks into the game, replacing Jason Hart. Just a shade under 11 minutes to play, first half. UConn in front, 13-12. Mooring a long 3.
Nobody found him. You have to find him. Don't let him get on track. If Connecticut gets some bounce out of him from long range, they're in good shape. You got 2 of the better 3-point shooters in the league here with Shumpert and Mooring in this floor.
And a pair of 3-pointers for Albert Mooring, shooting at 49% on the season.
Not a bad number.
Deshaun Williams on the floor for Syracuse, the freshman from Paterson, New Jersey. Here's Griffin calling out a play. UConn has its largest lead. Shot clock at 9. Williams puts it on the floor, 6 to shoot.
Can't get into anything.
Knocked away. Griffin trying to scoop it up. Off the rim and rebounded by Freeman. A leak out by Elamine. Leans in for 2.
Smart play by Elamine. He understood 2 things right there. The ball was up for grabs, but he understood the shot clock was an advantage for UConn. He took a chance and it paid off.
Timeout Syracuse. UConn on a 7-0 run. They lead it 18-12.
Connecticut has jumped off to a 6-point lead, and primarily because they're playing smart basketball. Elamine up there, watch how he cheats out right now. He realized the shot clock down to 2. If they make it, there's nothing he can do, but he just hangs out. Cheat out. The first guy to half court generally wins the race to the basket, especially if you get it on the move, and he can deliver.
Elamine helping to lead this fast break. 9-4, UConn in front in that category, and Khalid Elamine has made it pretty clear. Quoting him now, the way I go, the way this team goes. You agree?
Absolutely, but keep in mind with that, he doesn't have Rip Hamilton from last year. He doesn't have Ricky Moore, which is just as important. So it's a lot of weight on his shoulders with this Connecticut team. But you're right, if he's playing well, they're a tough match.
Deshaun Williams to the bench, replaced by Hart. Here's Griffin on the outside, shot clock at 11.
Hughes has to get into it a little more active and look to dump it down low if they have opportunities.
Here's Damone Brown on a drive. And he's called for steps.
That's a good call, too. A little hop step at the end of his move. Once again, it's more Huskies defense right now than Syracuse offense.
Ajo Dang will come back in, and UConn over the last 2 minutes on a 7-0 run.
Sometimes you don't make that big a deal out of home court advantages, but this here versus Syracuse, both of those teams, when they're playing at home, have huge advantages.
Elamine a three. Book it.
There's a rhythm. You can see it. If you've watched the Huskies play before, especially after last year, this is the style they played last year. This good bounce. Elamine looks real comfortable, and most importantly, he's not hunting down shots.
And a win over a top 10 team could really get people back on the bandwagon as they lead Syracuse 21-12. Jake Voskuhl called on the foul. How can you get something for nothing? Find out what's waiting for you. Just click on rewards at cbs.sportsline.com or on America Online. Enter keyword CBS Sportsline. Important
to note, too, at Syracuse with Blackwell, Thomas, and Hart, guys with experience, so you would expect them to weather some storms.
A 10-0 UConn run. Here's Hart in a matchup with Mooring. Hart, little shake and bake. Griffin puts it on the floor and connects.
Good patience there by Griffin, because defensively the Huskies are reacting to the perimeter. Once a guy comes down like Hart through the lane, he kicks out. Huskies have been doing a good job, so you have to settle down and break them down.
Here's Voskuhl, turnaround jump.
Voskuhl's offense has improved this year. He's looking to score a little bit more. And guess what? The Huskies are putting it down in his lap right now, and he's challenging Thomas.
Jake Voskuhl has been a starter at UConn from day one, coming out of Katy, Texas. Shumpert a three off the rim, and Elamine crashing the boards, looking to push.
Good balance by Syracuse.
Pull up pop, no good for three. Dang wrestles it away. And Elamine will slow things down, or will he? A curl by Mooring.
That's a better move there by Dang. Get it out, reload.
Mooring picked up by Hart.
Back to the man-to-man. Syracuse switching back and forth. I think they ultimately know that they have to get something defensively out of this man-to-man. Shuts the Huskies down a bit.
UConn can bring the lead to double figures. Shot clock is down to 10. Here's Freeman looking to make something happen with 7.
Got to get it to the guard right now.
Elamine, penetration, jumper, no good. And Shumpert with a rebound.
Better set defensively.
Lead feed for Griffin to the rim, and that's goaltending again. Third time it's been called on Ajo Dang.
Yeah, you have to like the energy, the activity by Dang, but the situation dictates that sometimes you just can't go up and take it off the glass. This one hits the glass, and he takes it away. Good call.
A timeout, 23-16. UConn in front. 7:28 to play, first half. UConn up by 7. Syracuse enters action today having 5 different players average double figures, but Blackwell is their highest scorer so far with just 4 points. Freeman with 8 points on 4 of 6 shooting. And UConn able to knock down some 3-pointers. Elamine will get a rest. Over 1,500 career points at UConn, and obviously question marks this time of year arise as to whether or not he's going to decide to go to the next level after the season concludes.
I'd stay in if I were him. I'd stay right where he is at UConn. They'll just better him as a person, as a player, and it'll get him ready for the next level.
Robertson, the freshman, in for Elamine.
See that pass just then over to Freeman. That's an opportunity last year where Rip Hamilton probably would have taken that shot or slashed to the lane. They don't have that.
Shot clock down to 5. High arcing delivery for Tony Robertson.
Looks like it. Hart may have whacked either the left shoulder or elbow. Looks like the shoulder area. And keep in mind, against Notre Dame on Wednesday, he hurt his wrist a little bit. Jim Boeheim told us before the game, shouldn't be a factor, but here's a guy who's getting banged up a bit.
And Boeheim puts a lot of trust in Jason Hart, whose play has really improved throughout his 4 years. He was a starter day 1 at the point guard position. Not easy to do.
No, not at all. And the thing about it is he's grown into the position, and really at the defensively, forget about it. He may be one of the best point guards in America, but you have a kid who's really running the show nicely. Now he's got Griffith back there helping him with the show.
Here's Blackwell, drive around Voskuhl, the runner, no. Thomas trying to follow, angles in, he missed it. Shumpert calls the timeout. Preston Shumpert with a heads-up play falling out of bounds. 6:29 left first half. 25-16. Huskies.
Huskies still with the 25-16 lead, and Syracuse here with Shumpert making a good play. Look at him get the officials' attention to call the timeout. Quick reaction to at least save a possession. This time in the basketball game, under 6:30 in the first half. You need the possessions to chop into this as much as you can as the half expires.
On the floor for Syracuse, Hart, Shumpert, Thomas, Blackwell, and Griffin. For UConn, it's Freeman, Voskuhl, Mooring, Robertson, and Dang.
And Syracuse really hasn't been able to find the range from the outside because of the presence of the Huskies defensively.
Timmy Higgins over at the scorer's table, just making sure that everything is okay time-wise. Tonight on CBS, when the bad guys bring out the heavy stuff, Samo's got the upper hand. Nobody does it like Samo. Martial law tonight on CBS. Off the timeout, they give Blackwell the three. Dang could not hold on to it, but Voskuhl does.
Just enough to tangle up Thomas, though, on that trip by Dang. Nice little read. One of the things he's doing a little better job of is putting a body on somebody to keep them off the glass. Comes Mooring, will run off the screens. Now he's on the baseline, coming off a Voskuhl screen on the right.
In a half-court set, interior feed, Voskuhl off the rim.
Hart's leaking out up the court, but notice the Huskies trying to get back, not allowing Syracuse to leak out on them.
Shumpert.
They're just not getting the three to go down. When they have the open looks that last time, and also Blackwell from three, 0 for 4 right now, not knocking him back.
Once again, UConn can bring the lead to double figures. Here's Robertson, one-on-one with Griffin. Lost the ball for a moment.
10 seconds on the clock, and it's not been pretty so far this set.
Down to 6, Freeman fading away.
Oh, look at this. Oh, I thought that was coming back down.
Over the backboard, out of bounds with 5:18 to play first half. And here comes Khalid El-Amin. Coming up next, it's game 3 of our triple header today on CBS. Top-ranked Stanford in a Pac-10 battle with UCLA. That's coming up after our Syracuse-UConn matchup.
The UCLA trying to put it all together, but Stanford still at the top of the crown right now, and they are big for Mike Montgomery. They're big across the front line. They have some good backcourt play also.
Well, the Bruins get Jaron Rush back in the lineup off the suspension. Shumpert had it taken away by El-Amin, and then he bumps it in the backcourt. So the foul called on Shumpert, and we will see a substitution for Syracuse.
One of the things El-Amin has done so well, you see the steal right here, but watch the reaction once he gets the basketball. Here comes the hand, and now look at him blow it right to the middle of the floor. Granted, he gets fouled on the play, but his thought process is, I got to get this thing to half court, and I know that the Huskies will fill the lanes for me if I get it there.
Damone Brown, Tony Bland check in. Shumpert and Griffin go to the bench. El-Amin a three, short, and Bland with the board.
Not a great one. You're up, I understand 25-16, but you want to get good shots in pressure basketball game.
Hart loses the ball, but able to tap it over to Brown. Gives it up for Thomas, looking to establish himself on the offensive end. Blocked by Dang.
Boy, has he been a presence defensively, long and active.
El-Amin on a kick out. Here's Dang. Pump fake on the three for 2. It's good.
Just listen to the crowd. Dang has gotten them into it. Now, I know 3 of them have been goaltending calls, but his presence defensively, the opportunities that he's given his team at the offensive end because of the defense.
Largest cushion of the day for UConn. Hart working off a screen. Now picked up by Suleiman Wan. Bland pump fake. Banks it home and a foul. That quiets the crowd for a moment.
You have a situation where, look at the big fella first. One stands in. The first guy is usually the guy who makes the difference for the second guy. The blocker, Dang, gets all the credit. He gets all the applause. But if you don't have a guy in there in the beginning to knock a guy off balance, the shot blocker generally doesn't get to it.
Tony Bland can't hit the free throw. Blackwell is there in some traffic. Give another block shot for UConn. Blackwell inside, and he gets the roll. He just stuck with it and finally gets the deuce.
Wine is very active defensively also, but give some credit for Syracuse. They had 25 offensive rebounds in the first meeting between these two teams. They have to find second chance opportunities.
UConn's lead down to 7. Elamine.
Cuse back to the zone.
Ajo Dang off the mark.
See, now sometimes you can get your enthusiasm moving so quickly. Now that wasn't a bad shot, but maybe a little rushed.
Hart throws it over the defense and finds Bland for the deuce.
They're not going to go away. You have too much experience, senior leadership on this team for Syracuse. And all of a sudden, what appeared to be a potential runaway in the first half has now crept back for a close game for Syracuse, all because of the presence of their experience.
7 points for Bland. Extra feed. 1. It wasn't pretty, but it's good, and a foul.
But it's the high-low action. First, it's Dang again. The guy catching the ball at the free throw line against the zone. And watch for the dump-down pass. You get the catch right here. Now watch the reaction up. Next thing you know, your baseline's wide open. Great execution there by the Huskies.
Second foul on Ryan Blackwell, and Suleiman Wan goes to the line, a chance to complete a three-point play.
A lot of times, Ian, what happens against a 2-3, you go zone and you forget that you want to get the ball inside and slash through it. Most teams settle for long-range shots.
71% on the season. He knocks it down. And will step aside. 30-22, UConn in front of the Orangemen. UConn up 8, late stages first half. Coming up, Pennzoil at the half. Greg Gumbel, Clark Kellogg will get you caught up on all the scores and highlights. That's coming up. Pennzoil at the half. Back at Hartford, Ian Eagle along with Jim Spinarkle, and this game does not resemble the game that these two teams played back in January at the Carrier Dome. That's when Syracuse blew out UConn in the first half. UConn hanging tough here in the first half, shooting well from the outside.
It was just about this time in the basketball game at Syracuse when they put them away. And the key thing I think here is the home court advantage for the Huskies has really been big because you can sense it with the fans. They're getting behind their team. Dang has really stepped up the intensity defensively, as have all the Huskies.
I think UConn also wants to show something to the rest of the country that don't forget about us. We won the championship last year, and yes, they'll probably be a 6 seed, somewhere in that range for Jim Calhoun. And I'll tell you what, if they're a 6 or a 7 in the tournament, I want no part of this team.
Absolutely.
Come second round.
Yeah, as you take a look at the banner, but yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at a team that's 20-8. You're not going to select them to play them in the NCAA tournament. You don't want them in the Big East tournament. And if he can get the rhythm going, I think it's important for the teams the last couple of games in the regular season to find themselves a little bit and get ready for the tournament.
If Syracuse can run the table, a victory here and then win the Big East tournament, they could probably get a 2 seed. Hart, no, but the follow from Thomas, he was all alone.
Yeah, and Thomas is a big body, obviously, and he just rode people away from the glass. And there's an understanding of where the shot's going to come from. A corner jumper, 75% of the misses will miss to the opposite side. Pretty good read by Thomas.
Out on the wing, Elamine, ball fake.
Yeah, they just back to the 2-3, but they have to protect Voskuhl right there. Look at the opening.
UConn up 6, knocked away by Thomas, and a foul will be called.
Now, if you do your homework and watch the 2-3, which the Huskies have done, you can continually take a look right into the middle. It forces the action right here. The Thomas then starts to reach a little bit because he has to be moving, and he's just not standing there waiting to block a shot. You get a big guy moving, maybe he reaches, maybe you get him off balance, and you challenge him. That's how you get to the line.
Second personal on Etan Thomas. Jake Voskuhl. Excellent defender. Nobody has ever questioned that. But Jim Calhoun pleaded with him during the offseason. We need more offense from you. And Voskuhl averaging just around 9 points per game, over 6.5 boards, and just a shade under 2 blocks.
And without Hamilton, they had to ask somebody to find some points. You give up with Rip Hamilton about 22 points a game he scored last year. Obviously the go-to guy. But with this particular team, they must find somebody to score down low.
He has held Etan Thomas in check so far. Thomas has 2 of 8 from the field, 4 points. Bland gives it up. Thomas could not hold on to it. And off of Syracuse, out of bounds.
That just happens to be a bad pass down on the low side of a big fella who's moving a step towards the basket. Jim Boeheim looking at it saying, hey, if Thomas can catch that basketball, he's better than we think.
6th Syracuse turnover. UConn with just 2 unforced errors. Here's Elamine looking to the interior. Keep it on the perimeter for Robertson.
They want to react to Mooring on the perimeter.
Elamine a three. Knocks it down.
Huskies had a tough practice yesterday afternoon that we got a chance to watch, and we talked to Jim Calhoun about it, and he was saying he just wants his guys to come out and play the way they're most comfortable, and they have settled in right here.
8 points for Khalid Elamine.
Little step.
Blackwell called for traveling.
So even the Jim Boeheim standing there, there's not a whole lot he can do. Hope for this half to expire without a whole lot of damage. He'll take a little extra step coming through the lane. Good call from the officials with the extra step. Now all the players, when you're on your home floor and the fans are behind you, you start looking up into the crowd because you really get the momentum and the enthusiasm with them.
Trying to pack it in with the zone. Robertson on the outside now. Elamine 14 to shoot. We approach 1 minute to play first half. Off the mark, and Hart able to knock it to himself.
Elamine trying to put a little dagger in the side just then.
Here's Hart off of penetration. Bland is open, a three. Buries it.
And Hart took a shot as he came through the middle of the lane. The point guard has to sacrifice sometimes, but if you're good at it and you bring yourself down the middle of the floor, it opens up your shooters.
10 points for Tony Bland. Elamine takes his time. About a 16-second difference, shot clock to game clock, winding down here in the first half.
And only 5 team fouls in each.
Leaning jump shot off the mark, Mooring. And now Hart will hold for one. 16 seconds to play, first half.
A good decision by Jim Boeheim, but be careful if you're Connecticut. You have an opportunity to foul if you want to without going into the bonus situation.
Fans on their feet. Hart a three, short. 3 seconds left. UConn quickly up the floor. Mooring will throw it up at the buzzer. Oh, no good. It rims out. And the first half will end on that note. End of the first half. UConn had a chance to tack 3 more on the board with Albert Mooring, who's shooting 49% from behind the arc. Not to be. UConn in front, 35-27. Greg Gumbel, Clark Keller will return with the Pennzoil at the half after this message. Good look at the Capitol building in nearby Bushnell Park. About 2 blocks away from the Hartford Civic Center as we are set for second half action. 35-27. Number 24 UConn leading 9th-ranked Syracuse. Elamine on a pass off for Mooring. Opens play in the second half with a miss from the outside, but Freeman has the offensive rebound.
Good work by Freeman just then to recapture the basketball. Good set by Jim Calhoun. They got the shot they were looking for.
Dang sets the screen. Elamine on a bounce. Here's Mooring in the lane. Little flip. Doesn't go. Mooring following his own shot. The banker is good.
Got it over Thomas. The offensive glass turning to the Huskies' favor to start things off. Syracuse just not ready to defend and go after the basketball for that 30 seconds.
And maybe the biggest difference from the first meeting, the UConn guards came ready to play.
Well, they were taken out of their game tremendously.
Shumpert, left hand, no. Thomas trying to clear space for himself. Came up short, couple of pumps, inside, and a big finish.
So many times the big guys go up when they're not ready to go up offensively to challenge. You notice how he just waited and regathered himself and got that strength, the leg strength to power him to the basket.
6 points on 3 of 10 shooting for Etan Thomas. Elamine, ball fake. Hart, what a ball-hawking defender he is on the perimeter. Mooring moving without the ball, rewarded by Freeman, the leaner. No. And rebounded by Hart.
Bland got him off the back of the head just then. No call. Tough shot for the officials.
Preston Shumpert getting the start of the second half.
Uh-oh.
Thomas again. He'll lay it through.
Starting to do some damage on the offensive glass. Jim Calhoun wants to talk things over. Message, get him off the glass, ride him out of there.
A couple of quick buckets. Thomas now has 8 rebounds. And the UConn lead is down to 6. I'll look at our Conseco halftime stats. The score you see was the one at halftime, 35-27. UConn shot 44%, able to convert on 4 3-pointers.
And those 13 fast break get-out points, so important for the Huskies at the offensive end.
Elamine on a spin. He lost Hart for a moment.
And Hart recontrols defensively.
15 to shoot. Trying to set things up. Elamine works around the Suleiman Wan screen, and a foul called as Khalid Elamine made his move to the basket. It'll be a side out.
Timmy Higgins right on the call, too, on the left side of the floor. Hart from behind, reaching over the top. You'll see him come around with his left hand now. Watch him go after the basketball and pulls right on the inside of the elbow.
First foul on the Syracuse point guard. First team foul on the Orange. Elamine gets it in. Mooring will handle the ball.
Out of bounds set. 2-3 defensive effort here by Syracuse. Watch for the middle of the lane. It's been effective. Let's see if they can tighten it up in that area.
Wan comes outside. Jump shot. And rebounded by Thomas, his 9th board.
I don't think you can allow them to get the ball there that often, that easily.
Preston Shumpert, the sophomore. Work the perimeter. Hart matched up with Elamine. Shot clock at 15.
Not a whole lot of activity going towards the basket. Off the dribble.
High screen set by Thomas. Swing it back. Etan Thomas unable to hit, and Wan comes in for the rebound.
Pretty good balance, though, on the long shot. Syracuse 2 men back.
On the move, Elamine, jump shot.
That's where he is deadly. He keeps the pressure on, but he has the uncanny ability to slow himself down, recognize that you're not guarding him defensively, and then he busts it to a spot where he can get his shot off.
Comes in averaging 16 points per game. He's got 10 here today. Thomas makes his move on the inside, but comes up short.
Just not getting the shoulders towards the rim enough to finish those plays.
Ajo Dang showing off his ball handling skills as he got it across.
I like those 6'10 guys handling the ball a little bit, huh?
Elamine, baseline drive. Dang gives it up. Suleiman Wan off the backboard and knocked around like a pinball into the hands of Hart.
Good extra pass there by Dang, but not to the guy they want shooting it.
Bland has had the hot hand, the floater, no good. The follow by Thomas.
You notice how Dang, though, came across the lane on the baseline side. That opens up a seam for Thomas. Jim Boeheim, not too nervous. He's been there before. Let his big guy go crash the offensive glass.
A double-double for Etan Thomas. 10 points, 10 rebounds. The UConn lead is 6. Elamine working off the screen. Jump shot off the rim and rebounded by Blackwell.
I took a look at Jim Calhoun after that shot. I am not happy at all.
Shumpert in and out on a three-point attempt.
The entire Syracuse bench almost fell out of their seats on that one.
They were ready to explode. Now Elamine will set things up.
Not great activity for the Huskies on the offensive end.
A 3 for Elamine, and Thomas has another rebound.
That trip, Hart was on the right side of Elamine, so he didn't have to go across body and got a hand on the basketball, or at least was a presence defensively.
Here's Hart using the Thomas pick. Inside, Blackwell in heavy traffic, and a foul call.
Same type of set that they had the last trip down, or 2 trips down the floor, where they got the ball up high to Thomas. Blackwell with a good, strong move.
With the conclusion of today's game, we will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game from each team. Chevrolet will make a contribution to each school's general scholarship fund, a tradition for over a quarter of a century. And Ryan Blackwell going to the free throw line. He's the comedian on the team. He keeps things loose. He likes to quote from the movie Something About Mary. And I know, Jimmy, that's tough for you to really relate to. Back in your Duke days, just to show you how far back Jim Spanarkel goes, I believe you were quoting Gone with the Wind, correct?
That's correct, yes. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a recent movie that I've seen.
Now that is a favorite of yours.
Yes, it is.
Second attempt coming up for Blackwell as Tony Robertson will check in. Syracuse just 2 for 6 from the free throw line. Always that perception that the Orangemen can't shoot free throws. They've actually done a pretty good job this season at 71%.
And their big fella, Thomas, has been a pretty good shooter for them from the line. That's the way to just chip back into leads, hitting your free throws.
1 out of 2 for Blackwell and a timeout. Syracuse inching closer, 39-34, UConn. UConn up 5 in the second half. Iron Eagle Jim Spanarkel rejoining you in Hartford. Yes, 2 teams ranked in the top 25, but I think it's fair to say forget the rankings when these two teams play, correct?
I think it's meaningless because you have two teams that have such great tradition, two great coaches in Jim Boeheim, Jim Calhoun, and they wipe the slate clean, I believe, every time they come out and play one another and just say, hey, guys, let's strap on the seatbelts and go after one another.
I think these two teams believe they're the two best teams in the Big East. St. John's having a great year. Miami, Seton Hall, and a foul called on the inside. Jake Voskuhl getting aggressive going to the rim.
Down the floor, Dang handling the basketball at 6'10". Good bounce pass, and Voskuhl, the key right there at keeping your eye on the basketball and catching it before you try to make a move.
Damone Brown called on his first personal foul, the second team foul on Syracuse. Voskuhl had a career high 19 in the first matchup, and he's off the mark on the first attempt.
Interesting enough with that first matchup, both of these teams are primarily driven, especially Connecticut, by the backcourt, if you will. They get good play. Syracuse does as a Jason Hart, but the guards really weren't dominant in that game in the first one. It really is the big guys who did most of the scoring.
Voskuhl misses them both, a 72% free throw shooter.
Opens a little door right now for Syracuse.
Alan Griffin in, lob upstairs, and Damone Brown able to hammer it home.
You see a lot of lobs in college basketball, but you don't see them from the left side of the floor to the right side as much.
It's a three-point game. Freeman attacking to Voskuhl, knocked away by Hart. Out of bounds.
Changing the tempo a little bit. You look down at the post, we're going up top. Boy, you catch it away from the basket and deliver. Brown basically been pretty quiet most of the time.
Syracuse picking up the pace here. 39-36. Huskies.
Oh, good hands by Blackwell.
Blackwell knocked it away as Robertson tried to inbounds it. Here's Hart going behind the back, and he's fouled by Robertson.
Now, as a group, you can watch basketball teams. Sometimes the body language will tell you that they're not real confident. Right at this point of the basketball game, it's so important for the Huskies to regroup. Elamine back on the floor, and Robertson off the floor, primarily to get a leader back on the floor, a guy who's been through the wars. But Syracuse has turned the corner in this basketball game.
14.5 remaining. UConn up by 3. Griffin had a notion, now takes the two-pointer and cans it.
And the activity is pretty good again for Syracuse. Good movement at the high screen area, high post, interchange to free themselves for a good shot.
A 7-0 Orangeman run. UConn is led by as many as 11.
They need something going towards the basket in this situation. Reestablish themselves down towards the basket.
Into the hands of Elamine. 12 to shoot. Freeman controls it. Working off a Voskuhl screen. Inside. They attack him on the interior. Freeman gets it back. Knocked away. And knocked to the outside. Morey. Shot clock down to 1. Freeman beats the clock.
Persistence on the offensive glass. Thomas had it right where he wanted defensively to swat it out, but Freeman using the strength. The unsung hero for this team this year and obviously last year, the national championship.
10 points for Freeman and the stick-to-itiveness of the Huskies. Hart, the jump shot, buries it.
Now you're going to expect one thing out of Syracuse with this veteran leadership. They shouldn't get rattled. I would be really surprised if they get rattled down the stretch, even though we have a ton of basketball left with a little over 13.
That senior troika, Hart, Blackwell, Thomas, lots of experience. The team did get knocked off in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year. A loss to Oklahoma State. Pressure, and UConn able to handle it with 16 to shoot.
Last set, they weren't too smooth offensively. Right now, down to 10 on the shot clock.
Elamine working off the Voskuhl pick.
See, Freeman won't knock that down out there.
Freeman, jump shot, and rebounded by Thomas. Syracuse can go in front.
Different look that Connecticut has this year because Freeman, if that were Hamilton once again, he would have been shooting that ball instead of having Freeman put it on the floor for the 15-foot jumper. It's a different look, and teams know that. Good cuts along the baseline.
On the outside, Blackwell.
Syracuse very active.
Here's Hart, 11 on the timer. Trying to weave his way through traffic. Open jump shot. Doesn't go for Damone Brown.
Pretty good poise, though, from Syracuse and Hart just then to get a good shot, a good look. Just don't get it to go down. That's starting to get noisy again.
UConn 3 for 13 shooting in the second half. 23%. Syracuse has picked it up just a little bit.
And I think that's why the Huskies have to get this ball going towards the basket a little bit more frequently.
Elamine trying to direct traffic. And the steal for Griffin.
A 3-second violation before the steal.
So Jake Voskuhl had camped out in the lane. Syracuse will get it. Step aside. CBS Sports coverage of NCAA men's basketball will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Wrap up the action. Sports Final postgame report right after the game.
Hanging on to a 1-point lead at 41-40. They've not been knocking the shots back from the outside, but Kevin Freeman has started to do some work on the interior. One of the things they must do as this game expires is going towards the basket. You have a situation where you can't depend on the open shots from the outside until you work the inside. If the inside works, you kick them out, then you knock them back.
Kevin Freeman has had an outstanding career at Connecticut. Usually in the background, other players have been the stars, but Freeman has done the dirty work.
You know, without a Kevin Freeman, I'm not so sure you win a national championship last year. He does all that work inside, and always a remarkable player for UConn in his career.
Syracuse looking for its first regular season Big East title since 1991. They will get it with a win in Hartford today. Shot clock at 12.
Better job by Elamine just then to stop the penetration.
Here's Griffin, 7 to shoot. Shumpert for the lead. Air ball.
Shumpert having his problems.
Elamine. Yes, down it, and a foul.
So good at keeping the pressure on offensively. The one thing about Elamine, though, his decisions have been, by and large, pretty good this afternoon. The confidence, the poise, this is why he'll be on the floor, but watch him hesitate with a good ball fake. Get the fella up in the air. Brown jumping, and then keep your concentration to put it off the glass. But show the ball. A lot of times guys forget to show the ball, and the more you can get that above your shoulders, the more you're going to get guys leaving their feet.
Second foul on Damone Brown. Third team foul. Elamine has certainly turned things around since the last meeting between these two teams.
And not only from a statistical standpoint there, Ian, it's also the way he controls the team and the flow of this particular basketball game. There was none in Syracuse.
Robertson comes in for Mooring. You mentioned Shumpert having his problems. 0 for 6 from the field, 0 for 5 from three-point range, and now he's on the bench. UConn extends to a 4-point edge. Hart, great crossover. Here's Bland on the outside. They'll work the perimeter. Blackwell trying to back in on Freeman. Drop step. And the foul call. Sunday on 60 Minutes, if you think you know the Atlanta Hawks' Dikembe Mutombo on the court, wait until you meet him off the court with Ed Bradley. 60 Minutes, Sunday. Kevin Freeman picks up his first personal foul. Side out for Syracuse. Hart getting into the lane for 2.
From a basketball perspective, that's how I like to play the game of basketball. Find a way to get 12 feet and in. So often guys settle, but Hart, good job that trip of forcing the issue. You want to keep the pressure on offensively. That's why Elamine is so effective.
2-point UConn lead. Here's Elamine, penetration, swatted by Thomas.
Love the fact that he blocks with his left hand, too, because he's on the same side of the ball with the right-handed shooter.
Third block for Etan Thomas. Elamine takes it again. Doesn't roll in, and Thomas snatches the rebound.
Freeman had an opportunity, too, on the offensive glass. He had a putback miss.
Here's Thomas backing in, using his body. Can't tie it up. Voskuhl clears it.
2 big-time rebounds. Voskuhl at one end, Thomas at the other.
Robertson will take the 3.
Who wants it?
Voskuhl does, but he saves it to the wrong team, Hart. And a break opportunity, but Hart will slow things down.
That's a good decision, too. Robertson very fast, wide open.
Blackwell for the lead. Wow. Way off. Inside. Thomas tied up, and a foul.
You look at one of the best shot blockers, not only in the Big East, but in the country. Watch a right-handed shooter. He blocks it with his left hand. He blocks a lot of his shots that way, and the advantage is he's not crossing over, so he's much quicker. And most guys, when you look at guys on the floor, I don't know if we have a left-handed player on the floor, but that's what he sees more frequently. Right-hand shooters, he's blocking with his left hand.
2 free throws for Thomas, 10 points, 14 rebounds, 3 blocks. But Syracuse unable to take advantage of the free throw line. They are 3 of 8 as a team.
Checking back in for Connecticut, number 4 is Joe
Etan Thomas, top 5 in the country in blocks per game.
Well, only one guy, Patrick Ewing, better than Thomas in his career in the Big East. Not a bad guy to stack up with.
Thomas named to Syracuse's all-century team recently, along with Jason Hart. And he hits on the second free throw.
He actually leads this team. It's odd to say this with this big fella. In free throws made and attempts, so he's been doing the job at the line for them, shooting just at about 70%.
And in scoring, 13.9 per game, just over 9 rebounds. UConn leads by 1.
Syracuse extending full court. A little trap on the sidelines. Whoa.
Well, what's Timmy Higgins going to call here? Elamine was trying to get a timeout, and Higgins will give it to him. 44-43, Huskies. 9:28 left, second half.
Syracuse is forcing the action defensively a little bit. Watch Elamine, though, as he goes down the sidelines here. I didn't think he called timeout. Watch, he looks back, calls timeout, and Timmy Higgins is in the correct position as an official. Right behind the play, he calls timeout, and Timmy kind of works his way through the crowd, and it looked like he was delaying, but it's the right call.
A delayed reaction. He may have been looking at Elamine's feet because he was straddling that sideline.
But he got the call right.
Elamine matched up with Griffin. It's Elamine, Mooring, Dang, Wan, and Freeman for UConn. Griffin, Blackwell, Brown, Hart, and Thomas for Syracuse. Mooring, off balance. Fight for the loose ball, knocked out of bounds. And UConn will hold on to it.
That's the shot. They're trying to free Mooring off some screens. Both coaches up. Jim Boeheim at one end, Jim Calhoun down the other.
Don't forget, coming up next, third game of our triple header. Number 1 Stanford, home for Pac-10 rival UCLA.
Struggle continues for UConn. 4 of 19 from the floor in the second half.
Under 9 minutes to play.
There's the high post, top of the key.
Ajo Dang, in and out, and Thomas able to get the rebound.
That has been wide open. You get that ball on the free throw lane, you have to shoot the ball, or maybe one dribble to the basket.
UConn is down to 35% shooting for the game. Here's Hart, continues on the drive. Able to get the pass over. Blackwell, the leader, and Syracuse leads by 1.
Finally, he gets a little instinctive play to come his way. One that he catches, makes a move, knock it down.
First lead for the Orangemen since 12-11 in the first half. Now let's see if UConn can show its poise. Freeman's a senior. To the rim, and a reach-in foul call. Damone Brown was trying to jar it loose.
You want a guy who's been there and comfortable with the basketball. Look at Hart there, makes this wide pass across. How about the vision? Forget about getting the ball to him, but being able to pick up Blackwell, who catches, puts it on the floor, and then makes something happen. 4 of 8 with 9 points. Blackwell is so important for this Syracuse team to get on track and be scoring.
Number 3 on Brown. Freeman with his first free throw attempts of the day. He's got 10 points. Shoots at 65%. Attended the same high school as current Syracuse freshman Deshaun Williams. Also happens to be the same high school of Tim Thomas, Patterson Catholic in New Jersey. And 1 out of 2 for Freeman. All tied up, 45-45. We come up on 8 minutes to play from Hartford. Hart on a crossover. Brown.
Oh, you gotta catch it.
Thomas could not bring it in cleanly. Out of bounds.
That's just frustration all over it for Jim Boeheim.
Take a look at our CBS Sportsline stat of the game. Field goal percentage in the second half. UConn really struggling. For complete game stats, go to cbs.sportsline.com.
That's why they've seen the 8 points go down on the lead at halftime.
Mooring off the mark from three-point range. And these fans just waiting for something to get excited about. Hart looking inside. This time gets it to Thomas, but action before the pass came in. He was bumping bodies with Suleiman Wan.
The big fella's starting to get acquainted, but watch him try to ride the big fella up the lane. Beautiful job. Now hand goes out. You see the grab. Easy call.
Number 3 on Wan. All tied up. A timeout. Look at our game summary, all tied up 45 apiece. And UConn has not been able to get into a rhythm offensively in the second half.
Cuse has stepped it up defensively. Thomas obviously a factor with his 11 points and 15 rebounds. Elamine will have the focus put on him for this last 7:33, because if you're playing against them, you have to keep an eye on him. Make somebody else beat you if you're Connecticut.
Of Thomas's 15 rebounds, 8 are offensive. 7:25 to play. Hart runs into his own man, Blackwell, and turns it over. Voskuhl gets it ahead for Mooring. He'll take the jump shot and hit.
Oh, was that ever a big turn of events just then? You were right on it, too. His own man caused the problem. UConn gets it and blows it down the floor.
How close has it been? 6 lead changes. UConn did have an 11-point edge at one point, but Syracuse has come scoring back in the second half. Hart a 3, off the mark. Tracked down by Thomas, rebound number 16.
Let's see if Syracuse can get a good shot. They get a second opportunity with the rebound.
Trailing by 2, Hart pull up pop. Off the rim and in, a friendly roll for Jason Hart.
But he had the shoulders going towards the basket. He comes around the high curl and makes things happen. Jim Boeheim very comfortable with Hart with the basketball in tight situations.
7 points, 4 assists for Jason Hart. 47 apiece. Here's Mooring, able to swing it. Dang, can't get it to drop. Voskuhl on the interior.
I think they got
a foul.
Yeah, they got Thomas. That's a good call. Thomas with the bang. Voskuhl will go to the line. Good work by both teams going after it. Dang with a little jump hook. From behind, though, Thomas bangs it before he even gets the basketball towards the basket.
Number 3 on Etan Thomas. The 15th foul on Syracuse. And Jake Voskuhl will head to the free throw line. He is 2 of 4 so far. 4 points, 9 rebounds. Connects on the first. Tony Bland back in. Had the big first half for Syracuse. He replaces Griffin. Bland hit on his first 4 shots from the field. Here's Voskuhl. Missed it. UConn controls it. And Mooring will take it to the outside, and Elamine. Now Elamine will play off the ball.
Still in the man-to-man, though, Syracuse. It's really given them the most productivity.
UConn up 1. Elamine jump shot. No good. Out on the weak side, a battle for it. Knocked out of bounds. And UConn will hold on to it. Who's in? Who's out? Who's playing whom and when? Get it fast, get it first on the NCAA Basketball Championship Selection Show, sponsored by Pizza Hut, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS next Sunday, live from the new Hall of Champions in Indianapolis. Greg Gumbel, Clark Kellogg, they'll be there, and you'll see it here on CBS.
Good, strong defensive effort by Syracuse.
Freeman filling the lane, left-handed layup.
That's going towards the basket with some authority. The presence. Bring your body at them. Make them put you at the line or finish the play. Jim Calhoun, talking in practice yesterday, said, we must finish plays. If we're going to the basket, finish them.
Huskies lead by 3. Hart knocked down by Mooring. He negated it on the perimeter.
Oh, the reaction so fast. Hart trying to take control of this game for Syracuse. What a play defensive.
Coming up on 5 minutes to play, second half. Elamine on the switch off.
Where are they going to get the points from is the question. That's why Elamine will have the basketball most of the way, trying to get himself into that 12-foot range, breaking people down.
Shot clock down to 6. Elamine a 3. Got it!
Thomas did a pretty good job. He stepped out, did not allow Elamine to get into the lane.
Timeout. UConn 53-47. Just under 5 minutes to play.
Connecticut stretching their lead by 6, but watch Kevin Freeman go to work, protect the basketball, move it around a little bit to avoid the Syracuse defenders, understanding they have to get it down low. Watch Elamine, though. Thomas recognizes, and what they did well against Duke in the national championship last year was they got the mismatch. Elamine versus Elton Bland out on the floor. Bang, he knocked it down. Big play then, big play this afternoon also.
A 9-2 UConn run. They lead it 53-47. Here's Hart.
Now look
Shumpert back in for Syracuse.
Look at the enthusiasm now on the perimeter with the Huskies. We'll see how they want to play it.
Tony Bland. Spin move on Elamine. On the push. Elamine will be called on the foul.
See, half of this building from behind us see the ball going out of bounds and being kicked out of bounds. But from the other side of the floor, you see the push. Right here, there's a push. Ball goes out of bounds. Still on him, though.
Didn't do it with his hands or arms, but he did it right around the waist area.
Exactly. Still a good call. Not going to go the other way.
Syracuse could not get it in. A 5-second call. So UConn with a chance to extend its lead.
Now decisions is so important, and it's this guy right here, Elamine, who's made good ones all afternoon.
16 points for Elamine. UConn on that run.
Elamine has to go find the basketball.
15 to shoot. Freeman. Elamine a three.
Oh. Yes! Money. Big time chase. There's where you have to track the basketball down. He hasn't been doing it all afternoon, but in big situations, clock winding down, find it.
UConn up 9. And the foul called as Hart took it to the rim.
Now watch him running around the floor here. He knows that there's plenty of time. There's 15 seconds up top. He tracks the basketball down. Shooting the ball yesterday, he looked good so well in practice shooting the basketball. You could just tell he was confident. Now he's picked up his 4th foul. So a very important stretch of time here for the Huskies at 4:02.
And it sends Jason Hart to the free throw line. That is the 17th foul on the Huskies. 4:02 left, second half. And UConn able to build a 9-point cushion.
And I like this move by Jim Calhoun, too. At 4:02, he knows there'll be a timeout coming. He gets him to sit on the bench for this period of time to get his break while they're shooting free throws. He'll take advantage of the timeout and the break, and he'll be back ready to roll.
Jason Hart, 1-and-1.
Well,
misses on the attack. And Syracuse comes away empty-handed on the possession.
And Jake with a good ride out down deep against Thomas, who would have been a presence on the offensive glass.
Orangemen are 4 of 10 from the line as a team today.
Now, where are they going to get the points is the question you have to ask yourself.
Here's Dang fading away. The follow is good. Tony Robertson.
They get a break. On a forced shot, they get a break because they get a good bounce.
UConn has matched its largest lead. 58 to 47 late second half.
A double-digit lead for Connecticut. A wild offensive series for them because Elamine was on the bench. But look at the bounce they get. Robertson in the right spot, right time, puts it away, stretches this lead to 11, and it really puts some electricity through this building during the break.
The game reset, 58 to 47. UConn, Syracuse led it 45-44. Huskies on a 14-2 run. Blackwell a three. No good. Shumpert leaning in.
He didn't want to shoot that ball just then. He didn't have the confidence going through the lane.
UConn in control.
They're going to have to start trapping. Here comes the Syracuse trap. Looking for opportunities to trap if you can along the sideline.
Freeman gives it off. Voskuhl rolls in and a foul.
And Kevin Freeman just then making a nice decision, too, to get that ball going towards the basket. A little bit of an indecision there with Elamine on the bench. But watch how he brings it to the middle. He gets reaction from Thomas. That puts Voskuhl in a better position because he gets the angle, he gets the shoulders ahead of Thomas, and he'll be able to deliver. Shoulders ahead, shot blocker behind you, you better get good results.
13 straight UConn points. Out to the outside and everything breaking for the Huskies right now. 3 minutes to play in the game.
And they're going to force the action defensively. Syracuse has to start trapping a little quicker and start to gamble. Good work taking time off the clock here, though.
Dang. Oh. Another offensive rebound, but this time Hart is able to take it away from Freeman.
Now they have to get good looks in a hurry also. Just don't force it, though.
Here's Hart trying to fend off. Goes around the basket and gives it away. Tony Robertson, the freshman, accelerates to the basket, and he's fouled. A collision with Shumpert. Bland was there as well.
And his accelerate, such a great choice of words just then, because when he got that basketball, it's spin, dribble, and go. You'll see the situation, the floating pass. They'll watch him come right down the left side of the floor, but put the burners on. He gets the angle. That's not going to work if you're Syracuse. Too much speed on that one play.
Number 2 on Tony Bland. Robertson misses on the first attempt, 71%. You know, one thing about freshmen, Jim Calhoun will play you. If you have the ability, he doesn't look at a freshman and say, I don't trust him on the floor. And Robertson has gotten a chance this season. Able to hit on the second free throw. UConn extends the lead, 61-47.
CBS sports coverage of the road to the Final Four is sponsored by Chevrolet Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. Sealy Posturepedic, we support you night and day. And by Priority Mail from the U.S. Postal Service.
UConn leading at 61-47. Don't forget, Game 3 of our triple-header here on CBS. Number 1, Stanford, playing host to UCLA. Ian Eagle and Jim Spanarkel with you from Hartford. Not a bad appetizer for the Big East tournament next week, right?
Absolutely. I mean, UConn has answered the bell a little bit. Jim Calhoun has turned that corner for his team, but it's still Khalid El-Amin's team. When he plays well, as we touched on way back in the beginning of this basketball game, if he plays well, this team is going to play well, and he's done that.
And the Orangemen have gone ice cold, just searching for offense. Here's Hart on the dribble. Bland pops to the outside. Shumpert. And it rims in for Preston Shumpert.
Well, did they ever need him to score earlier than what he has? First number to go down for him this afternoon.
1 of 8 from the field for Shumpert, who came in shooting 47% from three-point range. They double up on Robertson, trying to put some pressure on him. Shumpert couldn't take it away from Freeman, and he lays it home.
Well, we've seen twice with Kevin Freeman trying to make basketball plays. A little bit of traffic, a little bit of trouble, gets the ball and goes right into the paint, makes some things happen. Nice job for Kevin Freeman.
Good all-around effort, 15 points, 9 rebounds. Hart in some trouble on the spin move, and a whistle finally stops play as it went to the interior. Coming up tonight on CBS, you can get things started with Early Edition. And, of course, Samo and Arsenio on martial law. Wrap things up with Walker, Texas Ranger. That's all coming up tonight here on CBS. Preston Shumpert, a natural shooter. He's a terrific wing player, but he just did not have it here today.
And when you take a look at this guy, El-Amin had it today, doing a good job of running this club. 7 of 19 from the floor, 6 assists with 19 points, but more importantly, getting guys the confidence, getting them the ball where they're most comfortable. In the last 2.5 minutes, his teammates did a nice job while he was on the bench.
Shumpert, 2 out of 2. Now the issue for Syracuse is the clock. 1:34 remaining.
Attack defensively and foul as soon as it comes in.
5-second call. Freeman looked for the timeout, and Tim Higgins says no go. It was 5 seconds.
Good call by Timmy Higgins. Also a situation where Syracuse has to answer quickly. Jim Boeheim knows this situation as well as anybody. You're down a bunch. Let's stretch this clock out as far as we can. Try to keep these two teams here for the next 20 minutes if you can.
Now the officials chatting, because that is a gutsy call as well. You could easily say, yeah, you got it. It was close enough. Tim Higgins says no. That's 5 seconds.
And moving along, really parks himself in a tough spot right underneath his own basket. From that situation, you don't really have any angle. Timmy Higgins with a confident call on the left, but Kevin Freeman right underneath his own basket. You really park yourself in a tough spot.
1:34 left on the clock.
I think they're talking about the possession arrow possibly right now.
They're ready to play. And Boeheim's team with a chance to cut into the lead, trailing by 12. This Monday, CBS presents a new comedy about the magic of falling in love. Don't miss an all-new episode of Grapevine, Monday on CBS, right after The King of Queens. So Tony Bland will trigger in. His team is down 63-51.
Quick hitter from long range if you have it. Oh, did he call timeout again? Yes, he did. Yep.
Khalid El-Amin. Great play off of the inbounds. UConn looking to pull off the victory.
Defensively, El-Amin stepping up with a deflection on the inbounds pass, and as he goes towards the corner, he jumps. Timmy Higgins really isn't seeing him right there, but you know what? He's hearing him, and El-Amin yelling out timeout, and he gets it.
And UConn gets it in cleanly. Mooring to Freeman. And the Huskies more than content to work the clock, and Syracuse stops it with 1:26 left.
I think that's a great opportunity with a guy, an official, knowing the game of basketball just then and being able to sense what's going on in a floor. And this officiating crew has a great sense of this basketball game.
The Chevrolet most valuable players of the game, Etan Thomas from Syracuse and Khalid El-Amin from UConn. Chevrolet will make a contribution to each school's general scholarship fund to reward outstanding students for their academic achievements and to assist those in financial need. Freeman at the free throw line, 1-1. Hits on the first. 16 points for the senior.
Jim Calhoun getting his club ready for next week. Still looking at the clock with 1:26 left in this ball game, but maybe a little message for the rest of the Big East that these guys aren't going to pack up their bags and go home.
2 out of 2 for Freeman. (65-51) UConn. Don't forget Stanford, UCLA when we're finished here in Hartford. Hart down the lane and a foul called. Stops the clock with 1:17 left. Jim Calhoun just as energetic and as excitable as he was the first day he came on this campus 14 years ago. Despite winning a national championship, you would never know. He continues to put the pressure on his players and expect the best.
And the beauty of that also is the fact that you get a national championship, you might expect, well, now I can relax, turn the throttle down, and it's interesting to watch him work. And we got a great opportunity for 2 hours yesterday to watch his team. I tell you, they were practicing hard yesterday, as we both spoke about.
And also that label is now gone. He is no longer considered one of the best coaches out there to have never won a championship.
Right.
He's got that ring.
Oh, I always thought he was a terrific coach, no matter where he's been.
Syracuse stopping the clock with 1:11 left. Connecticut Huskies annual report. Take a look at last year. They won a national championship. Everybody feels that UConn has dropped down a couple of notches this year, but the numbers don't necessarily indicate it. One thing that you can't see, though, is what they do defensively, and without the presence of a Ricky Moore and, of course, the offense of a Rip Hamilton, there have been some growing pains for this year's version of the Huskies.
There's no question that when you look at it, it takes time to find the chemistry, and that's been the problem. You know, they're a backcourt-driven team, and Mooring and El-Amin really not clicking all the time as well as they would have liked, but and this afternoon, just a good effort. That's all he got out of his team right here. Let's challenge him and go play.
Freeman padding his stats. 18 points, 9 rebounds. Number 1 Stanford and UCLA coming up next right here on CBS. 1 minute left. Thomas with the left hand. Able to drop it home. 13 points for Etan Thomas. Some pressure, but they throw over it.
Yeah, they go by it. That's the second time they've gone by it. Number 1, it's a good play, but it takes time off the clock.
Here's Mooring. And they'll float it to the other side. And now UConn in a game of keep away. Foul call near the midcourt line with 42.6. Jim Boeheim's team will go into the Big East tournament on a down note. After starting the season 19-0, they went 5-3 in their next 8 games. And you can tack on their 4th loss of the year here today. Losses to Seton Hall, Louisville, St. John's and now UConn.
And in the St. John's game, I think it took a little starch out of them also. A great game at the Garden a 3 games ago for them, but you start to guess, second guess. What it really points to me, though, is that you can't expect anybody to run right through the Big East tournament next week.
1 out of 2 for Mooring. And UConn leads it 67-54. 11 points, 8 rebounds for Mooring. Knocked away.
With the speed.
And Robertson picks it up. Shot clock has been turned off. UConn fans in celebration mode.
And they answered the call this afternoon also. They've been noisy pretty much the whole afternoon.
Oh, what a way to end it. The alley-oop and the throwdown. El Amin to Mooring.
Maybe one with the shot clock. They could have run that out too. Maybe one next week. Connecticut will be thinking about it. So will Syracuse for sure.
It's over. UConn ends the regular season with a victory. They knock off Syracuse. 69-54 the final from Hartford. Coming up next, #1 Stanford taking on UCLA. That's coming up right here on CBS. So, for Jim Spadarkel, I'm Ian Eagle saying so long from the Hartford Civic Center. Our final score, UConn 69, Syracuse 54. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports, home of the NCAA Basketball Championship.